What's up, guys? Lucas Burnley here. You're listening to the Edge and Flow podcast. I'm here with my co-host TJ Schwartz. Our timing was off this morning, and we didn't know who was doing the intro, so it's
Yeah.
me.
We try to go back and forth every episode, but if you've been listening to these consecutively, you'll probably see how bad we are at planning that.
Yeah, I know nothing.
And so we just switch it up.
Oh man. All right. I think we've got like kind of a random episode. Today we're kind of both all over the place. You're fully dug into uh growth
Mm-hmm.
right now,
Mm-hmm.
taking over the world.
Yeah. Well, a little tiny corner of the world, I'll say.
You are first 3 days with a full timer,
That's right.
dude.
It feels good. Feels real good. It is very nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
but I think it's just because it is like the single biggest, most instantaneous change since the two or so years ago that I got a machine.
Yeah.
It's like the most happening all at once in 1 week because the workflow of two people is not the same as a workflow with one person.
Right.
So it's like every single process is getting restructured to be not necessarily a two-person job, but to be it's hard to explain. It's like I'm doing certain parts of it, and that can be in sequence with things he's doing.
Yeah.
And then also, for example, assembly I was doing in my office, in like the clean environment of my office, because that's I would assemble and package at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes the most sense now for assembly to happen in the shop. So we were rearranging in the shop for assembly to be out there, and then packaging only to be in here.
Mm-hmm.
And so stuff like that, where it's like it's kind of like you have your bedroom all tidy and you get a new girlfriend and she wants to like change everything, and it's like that little anxious feeling. But then I look at our productivity and all the things he's getting done, I'm like, this is awesome.
Dude,
This is awesome.
the fact that you are being productive while training an employee in the first 3 days of having an employee, I think is a testament to your process.
The things that he's picked up so far that I've basically transitioned to his
Yeah.
plate have been instantaneous, going very well. There's still training and stuff, so some of it is like with supervision, but as
Yeah.
far as like the initial response, like it's awesome.
That's great.
Feels good, really good.
So here's like a weird question. Do you have like a little bit of extra land like around your house shop? There's
not
nothing?
really. We're on a pretty small lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was going to
yeah.
ask if you could do one of those like 8x20 like office shipping containers, like on the side.
Can't swing it.
Can't swing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a sweet like assembly shipping, and then you
Mhm.
have a shop all in. Okay.
Yeah.
Next spot.
The assembly is going to work great. I mean, for me, assembly, I would because my orders were custom configured.
Mhm.
I would pull out the order sheet, build their knife,
Mhm.
and then to make absolutely sure their knife went to them, it would just go straight into a box and straight into a package with their shipping label.
Right.
So there's only ever one assembled knife at a time, not in a package.
Oh, wow.
And so that worked really good when it's a one man
Yeah.
thing. But again, with two people, it's like he would have to be in my office, and then most of what I need to do is be in the office. So
Right.
can't have two people sitting in the same office,
Right.
the size.
And
that
now
I
you're
have.
just doing like, this is like pick and pull, right? Like
Yeah.
you
So
have a list of like what the order is. You have a
yeah.
pick sheet, right?
Yeah. And so then
Go
I got like
through.
tray organizers. So
Yeah.
there'll be like finished orders in slots. And that way I'm doing shipping of pre-assembled knives.
Mhm.
And then also it gives me the ability to inspect. So
Mhm.
if he was doing the exact way that I'm doing, I would not see the knife after it's assembled.
Right.
And so I didn't like that. And it's like, I want to inspect the knife and I trust him fully. But like being, my knives that I'm putting a signature on, like a certificate of
Yeah.
authenticity, like I need to hold the knife before it goes out. And so this way allows it, he does the assembly, I do a full inspection, ship. So
It's pretty good.
yeah.
This is like a kind of a weird digression, but it's related. Did I tell you about the conversation I had with my neighbor who has an Airbnb? Did we talk about that?
No.
She just mentioned this in passing. So she's got a house like 4 houses down that she rents. Ran into her. She's moving back into it, blah, blah, blah. And somehow like house cleaning came up. And she told me, she's like, what I do is I do every fourth cleaning.
Mm.
And my brain like latched onto it because what she's doing is essentially offloading the majority of the work, but keeping her eyes on enough to see if there's any major problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like related to what we do, it's like if you were to fully separate yourself from the shipping process and then 6 months later look at the shipping process, like you might realize like, "Ooh, this has been missed." Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
just being able to put your mind on it a little bit of the time.
Hmm.
I just thought that was so good,
That's smart. And
right?
to strategize it, not just to do it like haphazardly, but to say
No.
every fourth cleaning.
Every fourth
That's brilliant.
cleaning. And so she's like, last week, she's like, I ran in, she's like, in a closet, there was like a pile of mildewy towels that were like perfectly folded, but someone had put away wet.
Mhm.
So house cleaner missed it. But she's like doing it and found it. And I was just like, where else does that, like, how can that play in? I've struggled with it in our business because over the years, there's been so many tasks that I've kind of had, like, I've stepped away like from completely. And then you realize this is like founder's dilemma, right? If you start doing shipping, your brain is constantly making small improvements,
Yep.
but
Yep.
someone else in that role isn't necessarily doing that.
Yeah.
So if you step away and then come back, you're still able to make those improvements because you're gonna be like, "Oh, this doesn't make any sense. Let's do this," or like, "Let's get this label print was really slow.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like it."
Yeah. No, for sure. I'm really happy, honestly. Like you pointed out, like it has been very productive, and it was really like hit the ground running, and it hasn't been any hitches or anything. But like I said, I think I do have some anxieties, just full transparency, just because of like change, rapid change. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like everything's getting rearranged. Everything's it's just like I'm gonna have to realign myself with like a new direction in a sense.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm getting trained probably more than he is.
I think that's been one of the most interesting parts of having employees. It's
Yeah.
like by the action of having to explain and show and walk
Mhm.
through your process. I just feel like there's so many times where I'm like, wait, why do I do it this way? This is like
Yeah.
it isn't teachable.
Yeah.
Like, okay, how can we do it better?
And the feeling of letting go. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he's running the machine right now, and it's like that feeling of just like, okay, that's his machine. Just
Oh,
let
I
it
love
go.
it.
You know what I mean? Like I have to work on, cutting the bond from that process that I developed.
Yeah.
Not totally like you pointed out, but I'm in a personal growth week right now of
I
like
love it.
changing. Yeah.
3 years away from an R&D lab in the basement. Can't wait.
Right.
It's gonna be awesome.
Right.
Don't
No
bother
kidding.
me.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Nice, man.
So,
We've got our limited part-time help.
mhm,
And even there it's been super, super helpful.
good.
Man, I think I already talked about this, but I just missed that ability to delegate
Oh, it helps so much.
so much. So we've been doing like we're setting up leather. So we've been running, like, we've had 2 days of just running coasters. And it's kind of nice because I've got him running the parts. And like I went ahead, like first day we had the clicker press like set up kind of, just jury rigged. And then before he came back, I was like, oh, I'll like actually plumb it and like run airline and set up a
Mhm.
pressure regulator to it. So I'm noticing that just by the action of having someone in the space working, it's forcing me to improve the space, which improves the work
Yeah.
regardless of who's doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Same thing
so
happened to me because we got a pneumatic tool up and running now for
mhm.
stoning bevels for the first time, and it just so happens that all the parts and everything came together the same week that he was coming in, and so I had like an airline just straight to the air chuck by the compressor,
Mhm.
go into this thing, and if it were just me, I probably would have ran with that for a while until I
Yeah.
found like a margin to go and plumb that in more
Yep.
securely. But then he's doing it, and I was looking at that airline. I'm like, well, now that he's doing it, I can go to Home Depot, get some fittings, buy
Yes.
a regulator, and so I routed that. I did that this morning, and exactly the same thing that you did. It's like
Yeah.
I'm looking at these airlines, thinking about those while he's
Yep.
helping stone. So
Yep. Well, and that's, I think, we talked about like the coaching thing a little bit, the analogy of like being like a rancher or a farmer,
hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That's a prime example. Like you just made your system more efficient. It wasn't direct bottom line
Hmm.
productivity,
Hmm.
but long term, that's like it's just a pure investment.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
it's fun. I got a 2-ton arbor press for
Nice.
doing stamping. Just
It's an
like
arbor, not an H
yeah,
frame.
no
Nice.
arbor.
It's
Yeah.
a big one then.
So the cool thing, yeah, big arbor. It's nice because it's fast. H
Hmm.
frame, you've got like click, 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 click,
Yeah.
click, click. This is specifically for stamping leather though.
Hmm.
So it's upstairs. And then yeah, man, I've been doing more learning around the laser.
Mm.
We've been doing these little lasered, like I'm throwing kind of like a big macro rose on some of my CRKT designs, and we throw them up on the website. And I think in the last month, we've sold like close to like 200.
No kidding.
And it's great because it's
That's
another
awesome.
one for John. He'll come in and it's like, sit down. I'm like, okay, we're going to do 50 knives and just
Mhm.
laser these.
That's brilliant.
So, yep, I'm loving it.
That's brilliant.
Efficiency.
We talked last week about having the embossing plate inside the cutter for the
Yep.
clicker. There's another way to do it that we actually initially did that
Okay.
might be a faster start for you.
Okay.
If you get the exact shape of your cutter, it's a circle, right? For the coasters.
Mm-hmm.
If you get that diameter into CAD
Yep.
and you make the embossing plate, you have the embossing and then you have a ring where
Mhm.
that's the exact diameter. If you emboss the leather before cutting it out, then if the embossing is perfect, you can set the cutter in the embossing of the perimeter
Right.
and cut it after embossing because the cutter will fall into that V of where that emboss is.
That's smart.
Yeah, and we were doing that first before we went the other way, and it works really good.
So when you were stamping, what was your stamping medium? Like what was the actual stamp made out of?
G10.
G10. Okay,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
machined it?
So at the time, I didn't have a CNC. This was years ago, and Darren Sorois actually machined it for me.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
I'll have to figure some of that out. I think I could probably do because we're cutting our dies on the laser. So I think I could probably figure out how to do like some kind of line die. I like the one, like what we did one stage. I guess it's a 2-stage process of stamping and cutting at once.
Yeah.
Where I guess where I don't know is like, how do you set the correct like depth to cut, or is it just by the foam?
So what the way I had it set up was I had like 2 layers of neoprene, and that's actually mostly for ejection.
Yeah.
And then below that, you can, if you get like, I don't know, 30 or 50 thou acrylic or something, you can stack those up until it gives you the right depth. And so you have just, if the leather ends up coming in thicker, you can take a layer out or put one back in. So it's like you kind of have a stack up of liners.
Okay. I like
and
that.
So, and then that way the neoprene compresses fully, like it goes all the way down to where it's like all the way compressed.
Okay.
And then it starts to emboss, and then the neoprene ejects the leather.
Got it.
And so you could probably do it without the neoprene, but the neoprene gives it a little bit of sponge and a little bit of like, it allows for that emboss to also sit flatter because it's kind of absorbing some of the inconsistencies that are there. So
yeah, I like that. And then also, is everything like, are you attaching this in any way, or is it like kind of everything comes apart every time you stamp?
No, you can. There's multiple ways you can do it. Like the ones we had, like they were kind of wedged in there. But what you can do, I think there was enough friction that they weren't coming out at all. But if you wanted to put like a few drops of super glue, so that if you needed to pull it out, I mean it's neoprene, so you can just peel it off. But you could do that, or a little tiny bit of VHB or double stick or something.
What kind of neoprene?
Generic black.
Like how thick?
Pretty thick, like
half inch,
3/6. No,
not that thick. Okay,
like it was like 3/16, but it was like 2 layers.
Okay,
so it might be a quarter.
I just need to play with it.
Yeah, if you have a big enough recess in your circle cutting die, you could just play with the stack up of how many layers of like acrylic and how many layers of neoprene.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy to R&D that.
Yeah. Well, and like again, laser, like I can throw that on the CO2, cut spacers, and then that's perfect.
Yeah, and then is the inside of your cutter, is the steel fully covering the circle, or does it have big through holes?
You know what I'm saying? The steel, let me see if I understand this correctly.
Like if you look at the inside crevice,
it's like I got like a crossbar.
A crossbar. So you might might need to cut like a piece of steel.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like looking at, I was like going to build another plate or like a round plate that goes inside of it.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So that it's closed, basically.
Yeah. Because the one the cutter I was using was CNC machined from just a block. And so it had just like a flat bottom. It
Oh,
didn't
okay,
have like
got it.
holes.
Yeah, this is
Otherwise,
like it's almost like tubing with a crossbar,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I can fab something.
yeah. If you fab something up, so otherwise you're going to get a deep emboss right where that bar is, and then
Mhm.
your G10 or whatever is going to flex, and you're
Flex
gonna,
out of the way.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man, it's fun. I love right now. I'm really enjoying figuring out like kind of efficient ways
Hmm.
for some of this stuff on like a analog level.
Yeah,
This is really satisfying.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Leather's fun. My dad came out with some next gen sheaths for me. So
Oh,
there's new sheath designs. Like the Overland design was improved on the sheath, and then also different leather. And I'm like, it's just taking the next step. We had a custom tool made to emboss my logo in the front of it, so
nice.
we've got that going. Yeah,
It's
that
awesome.
just launched those like this week
I love that
or
your
last
dad
week.
is doing sheets for you because it's like it's like a low key like value add flex.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, who your dad is. It's like no big deal.
Well, he really tries to turn down any work that isn't saddles because he's
Yeah,
kind of a purist about like he's a saddle maker kind of
yeah.
thing. So he doesn't do much of this stuff, but I kind of have an in,
You got
and
a
so
guy.
yeah, yeah, it's it's
Dude, I
funny.
like it. Um, man, what else? We got Blade Show coming up.
Hmm.
We're both starting to think about that. I have to book my flights.
Less than a month, dude.
Ugh, man,
I know.
I'm not even doing it, and I'm nervous about. I'm
I
not
know.
displaying it. I'm still nervous.
Hmm.
It's all good.
Yeah, I my employee will be going. Dalton will be going with me to shows, but not this show. It's just
Yeah.
too soon.
Yep.
But at Blade Show West, he'll be down there with me because I'll have
That's
an
awesome.
exhibit. But this one, I'm just going down solo and doing the same old thing that I've been doing. But
Yep.
probably next year, I'll have an actual booth in Atlanta.
I think it's a good plan.
Yeah.
I always tell people like if you're even on the fence a little bit, just reach out and
Hmm.
just get on the list. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's the same as it always was. Like I don't know what availability is. But if you it's like if it's not on paper, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So if
Exactly.
you want to do it, just
And you do have to get on their list pretty early.
yeah.
I found. I mean, earlier than what you might expect if you haven't done it before.
Yeah. So
Several months.
dude, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I like it.
But
I've been missing it actually. We'll see. I've got like my plans are always so nebulous, but like I would like to get back into like maybe a 3 show rotation, maybe like one like custom show, and then a show like Blade. I think where I got started to get kind of like burn out on it is I was treating it like a custom show, but bringing like almost production numbers
hmm.
to where the drain was just so high. It took so much
Yeah.
work to get it done. But at the same time, you're like, there's so many people and so much support. Like you want to be able to capitalize on that.
Hmm.
Right. And like make it count for people that are
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think if I could get kind of, like a fixed blade running or something that is like a little more efficient,
Hmm.
I would jump back into doing blade.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It's a good goal.
I'm feeling ready. I'm feeling ready to start doing the trade show thing. I had to get, I think having an employee is the difference maker for that.
Yeah.
Because for me to do production style making like I'm doing and get ready for the show, like I kept trying to do it and thinking about doing it and just like realizing I don't have the time
Yeah.
to commit to that. But now, between now and October for Blade Show West, I think we'll be able to stack
Dude, you're
some
good. Just
inventory.
start.
Yeah.
Just start. Well, I say start, but like just start putting aside inventory.
Yeah.
2 Blade Show things I was going to mention. I don't know, because we don't have booze. Are you going to take any classes?
Ooh, for Atlanta, that's a great point. I know Ben
So,
Peterson's in on one.
dude, I got
Yeah.
tickets to Ben's class.
I might
Um,
have to jump in
I
because
think you should just because it's called
yeah.
Dancing with the Devil.
Yeah. And it's
Um,
SEO and
dude,
selling knives on the
algorithms,
internet.
SEO, and e-commerce. And this is like, I love learning from people who have like a unique viewpoint and skill set. And I really think that this is an area where Ben shines.
Hmm. Yeah.
My brain does not work in this way.
Yeah.
It's not something I've ever had experience with. I don't take it into account when I look at how I run my business.
Yeah. Data-driven marketing.
Data driven marketing. So this
Yeah.
is something that is truly like I look at it and I'm like, I'm going to go in there and have no basis.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. Same here. It's he's going to be talking about the battleground that some of the biggest companies
Yeah.
fight on. that
Yeah.
littler companies just don't even know exists,
Yeah.
and in some ways, or that should know exists.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like Nike versus Adidas, they've got
Yep.
teams of guys doing SEO work and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a big field to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. Just a different game. And I don't even know how much of it is relatable to what I'm doing, but I have to assume that, I mean, it is, right? It's like an
Hmm.
aim small, miss small,
Hmm.
like being well informed in general. And then the other one I'm taking is completely like opposite, but also the same, which is how to run a successful knife making business,
Nice.
but it's by Bob Kramer.
Oh, cool.
So this is a very different, approach, I would imagine. For those of you guys unfamiliar with Bob Kramer, if anybody is, he's a super talented bladesmith. But one of the things that I love about the way that he has worked is he brought in like auctions to his work. So like this, I don't know why. I guess it's common maybe in the bladesmithing side to some level, but I associate it with more in like the EDC, like hype side of the industry where you're seeing
Hmm.
like lotteries and auctions. Um, Dude, I mean, he'll sell a kitchen knife for $50,000.
Hmm.
His work is amazing. It's
That's
inspired,
that's something that my dad would be interested in as far as
dude.
that class goes,
Yeah.
because
It's like the
yeah,
analog version, right?
yeah.
I would assume. I'm sure there's some component of like, because he has built that audience online like the rest of us have,
Hmm.
but I would imagine that he's going to look at it from a more nuts and bolts approach. And since I'm interested in forging, I'm really curious to see like, okay, how, if you're going to do that side of the business, that type of work, how do you make that efficient?
Hmm.
Right. Because
Yeah,
I think it's got parallels to what we do, but it is different.
yeah, yeah.
So
Totally different process.
just
No,
go,
that's
just buy tickets to
interesting.
those.
I need to go look at the whole list too. I
Yeah.
haven't actually even looked at it, but yeah,
Yeah.
Ben's my good buddy. I'd love to
Yeah.
get in there and
I know.
heckle him.
Can't wait to heckle him.
That's funny.
Yeah, should be good. Yeah, other than that, what else? What else we got going on?
So here's a cool topic that is kind of a full transparency type of situation, which I hope we can do with all of our conversations on this podcast. And that
Mm,
is, how do you monetize a podcast? And should we monetize this podcast? And we've been talking about it.
a little bit. Yeah, there's a couple. One, okay, yes, we should monetize the podcast. Okay.
Hmm.
It is work. It does take time. I do value it. So like there's that
Hmm.
aspect. But I think more it's for me, it's like it puts skin in the game. Like I think that monetizing it makes me look at it more serious, maybe like in a more serious
Yeah.
like
It,
point of view.
it becomes a mature business. Like
Yeah,
it becomes a business. Yeah.
right. Well, and it's a different. I would say you've actually had a business that is somewhat similar because you've had like a media business,
Sort of. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
sort of. But you get my meaning,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I have not, and so I think at this point it's a fun process to actually go through and like, okay, if we monetize, we actually have to create a business around this podcast.
Hmm.
I think that's a fun project for
Yeah.
us,
Yeah. For
right?
sure.
Look at it differently, related business, but not the same.
So
Um,
we could talk also. I mean, we've talked at it quite a bit, but we even still today are sitting here talking about all these different possible ways of monetizing. We haven't even decided which way to go. And
yeah,
there's things like Patreon,
right,
which a lot of people are familiar with, but basically a subscription model that doesn't necessarily block. It's not a paywall for the podcast.
right.
It's a like, it's got a little bit of a donation vibe to it.
Yeah, which I
In
don't love.
Right.
Well, okay, there's two ways. I think it has a donation vibe, but the idea behind Patreon is that you're providing content that is different
Yeah.
from what you are presenting in your primary format.
Yeah. You like add a private layer on top of the existing podcast.
Right. So
And
my
then
concern around that is like can we actually add enough value to make that worthwhile? And like realizing, like, I think a lot of these, like, people are throwing in like a few bucks a month or something, but it's like one podcast I listen to, they do Patreon, and it's like, if you're a Patreon member, you get to like call into the show.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that is actually pretty cool. Like, so you can do like Q&As, or you block out time for like Q&A kind of stuff. My fear is around creating additional content, because the podcast right now is a really good fit for me on a timeline.
Same.
Like, yeah, same. And you're doing the editing, so you have a higher workload than I do. At the point where you're actually creating separate content, I just don't know if the consistency would be there.
Yeah, the workload would be
Right.
a lot higher all of a sudden.
Right.
A lot more decision making too, to divide up content into like the free category and the paywall category.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about sponsorships.
Yeah.
And I think we both agree that's kind of a good way to go.
Yeah, it feels like a good fit for us, given like our time in the industry and like our like relationships in the industry. Right.
Yeah. Because what I like about sponsorships is like, it's a full transparency thing. It's like, if we had sponsors, I mean, the whole purpose of it is that we tell you who's sponsoring us. And it'd be people that we believe in, and that believe in us, that we have honest relationships with, of course. And then it retains like free viewership of all our content on the listener side.
Yep.
Which I really like.
Agreed.
And so that way it's like, it's a very symbiotic thing. You know what I mean? And, and it doesn't feel like we're leveraging the audience at all either. At least it wouldn't feel like it to me.
Well, and I still have like some imposter syndrome around like podcasting, because I'm like, who am I really to like be able to like talk, but I realize I'm like, okay, I've been in this industry a long time, and like ultimately you and I are just having conversations, and if someone doesn't want to listen to it, they could just like not listen to it.
Yeah.
But I do feel weird around putting up some type of like paywall, or like, because it feels like putting my hand out, and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Unless I knew that we could create, and maybe this is not like a hard decision. Maybe it's like at the point where we have additional content, if we ever get there, or like some a listenership that would actually like value being able to like have some direct, like almost like a limited kind of what's the word that I'm looking for? Not like coaching, but some element of like being able to reach out with specific questions.
Yeah.
That would make sense maybe for Patreon, or like, I don't know.
Q&As that are frequent and like scheduled or something like that.
Yeah.
Or even at a show, like a meetup or something like
Yeah,
that.
meetups. Like you get, so it would be the Patreon would essentially be like gaining access to, or you could, if we took this like that next extension of like, do we create product around the podcast? Does that play into like a Patreon thing where like, oh, if you're a member, like you have access to like these drops, or like, and like advance notice. I'm enjoying the process, because I think that different businesses benefit from different tactics. Like, that's an obvious statement, but I am really interested on a personal level in like seeing like where I can input like techniques that I've used that work in my business, like what crosses over and what is the new thing that I have to learn. So
we could do it the way I used to do it, and put these all on DVD and sell them as DVDs.
Dude, let's throw it back. Like, comes with a DVD player.
Right.
Like,
right.
Oh, I like that. Well, okay. So we have Patreon, we have sponsorship,
And then merch.
we have merch. I guess the only other one would be like some type of affiliate program, but does that fall under sponsorship?
I don't think so. Yeah. Cause affiliate program would be,
we have a discount code.
Yeah. Discount code type thing, which is something I've seen pretty frequently out there. You see it on YouTube a lot. I'm really liking it as like a first step, as just like a sponsorship, because everything's on the table. It's the easiest to understand by all the parties, the listener, us, the sponsor. Like, it's just a very simple, clean way to do it.
Right.
I like the sound of that. I do.
I think around sponsorship, there's another component that is important, which is like active sponsorship. Like I'm kind of less interested in just having like an ad or some type of, well, and this is the weird thing. Like, okay, our numbers are not crazy, right? So like if we go to a company and we're like, hey, are you interested in sponsoring us? If you look at it from a metric of like just advertising, I don't know that the value is there. What
Mm,
I
yeah.
like is almost the concept of like a brand liking what we're doing and being like, we want to support this
Hmm.
and be related to it. And like,
Yeah.
how can we be involved?
Yeah.
I think that's much more, it's like a soul surfer type of thing where you're like, you're not doing competitions, but you're like out and like occasionally photos are taken,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Like
like,
more of a brand development over
yeah, or
back and
like
forth.
not
Yeah.
yeah, like a free there's a few sports that have that, right? Where you're
Yeah.
like kind of like a free agent, but you're sponsored,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
But you're not like expected to like go and like, podium every
Yeah.
time.
You're not shilling just left and
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a,
So,
you're not a
and I
NASCAR driver.
yeah, and I think that is that it makes it more difficult because I almost feel like we could probably get a couple brands to like sponsor us, and maybe through that also like we would have it like people that are listening get a discount code or whatever. But I think the active participation adds a level of complexity, but it also makes it more fun.
Hmm. Hmm. And I do agree, like with the sponsorship. I mean, having it not be just a total sterile thing, having it be like they're coming into the community so that
Yeah.
the podcast is a community with a corporate member involved, that the humans in that corporation are like joining the community in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like, there's a lot of questions that like come around this. Um, yeah. And then it's like, I think that plays into who we would want to sponsor us. Also, like like ideally, you don't want a single source, but you also don't want conflicting. So it's like
Hmm.
you're essentially trying to create a community around your sponsors,
Hmm.
which is, I feel like that in and of itself is kind of a fun
Yeah.
project,
Yeah. No, that's
right?
it's fun. The whole idea of it. Yeah. I think we should move on that for sure. On
Okay.
like on the sponsorship side, and then merch. I really think merch would be cool. If anyone's listening who wants a cool hat,
Yeah.
let us know. We've been talking about that. We definitely need to move on that. That'd be
I think
cool.
that is a good project just for you and I uh to dig into. So that means if we have merch, we need a website. If we have merch and a website, we actually need a business to be set up.
Hmm.
Um, so those are all good things. Just it's kind of like any one of those forcing the other two or like pushing the other two is great. But I feel like designing product is the easiest way to like make sure that you like due diligence or like, oh, we
Hmm.
have to put it on a website and we have to like um, have a place to put the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ultimately, because we don't want it like commingling with our
Yeah.
standard business
Yeah. Since it's a joint
accounts.
venture. Yeah.
That's my thought,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
No, for sure. Yeah. A standalone entity on paper.
That's
Yeah.
fun too, man. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, like we have the ability, like we have someone who can do accounting for us. Like I think we base the business in Idaho and we give you like a percentage primary, so you're like a decision maker. I think
I
it's
don't
like a
know. I'm a
fun.
bad decision maker. I'll drive this ship into the ground.
I don't know, man. But this
I'm just kidding.
again, this is like the fun thing to look at because like
Yeah.
in reality, like the stakes are pretty low,
Hmm.
but I've never had business partners before. And so like, well, how do you learn about having business partners? You might get to a point, you more than me probably get to a point where 5, 10 years from now, someone approaches you about a partnership or something like, hey, like
Hmm.
let us come in. We want to fund this much. By doing like a grassroots version of seeing how partnership works, I think
Yeah.
it's like a very good like
Playing small
pre-learning.
ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, for sure. It's like
Like,
wiffle ball.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I like low
Yeah.
stakes, man.
Yep.
you
Yep.
know?
Yep. So Yeah,
Okay.
we to everyone that's listening, like, we love having you listen, and
Yeah.
we really appreciate it. So, I mean, if you guys have any thoughts on that too, let us know. Because, like I said, if this is a community, I love hearing what you guys think. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Same. I'd also love like drop us a line and let us know who you would like to see. Like we kind of have in mind like some
yeah,
sponsors.
like Red Bull.
I can't wait, dude. Like backflip off the roof.
Well, the hard choice is Red Bull or Monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
There's no choice
they
there.
both asked already.
Red
So,
Bull gives you wings. Do
yeah,
we just do both and then we each like it's like NASCAR.
right.
Like we just wear opposing gear.
Shake and bake.
Oh man, that's exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I would be curious to know if there's any like tie-ins. And how, like, what do you think, TJ? Like, what's the right number? Like, if you're gonna engineer it right now, gut response, how many sponsors does a podcast have?
Like 2 or 3. I don't know.
That was my thought. Like
Yeah,
between
yeah.
like one to start to develop the process,
Mhm.
maybe 2 to 3, and I don't even I don't even know that that's accurate. I'm trying to think. No, I bet like if you listen to like the high output podcasts, I guess. Well, here's another question then. What's the like between sponsorship and advertisers?
Mm, yeah.
There's a difference
Big
there,
difference. Yep.
right?
Yeah. Like, are we
So
selling spots or are we doing a brand collaboration? You know what I mean? Because that,
or yes and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
So and does one lead to the other? So like okay, so like you have a sponsor, they're almost more like that, like a little bit of like a partner,
Mhm.
right? What do they receive for that whatever they're putting into the pot
Yeah.
versus like someone who is advertising. Like here's a weird one, dude. I use safety glasses that I love, and I'm like I would like to have a discount code for the
Mhm.
safety glasses and
Yeah.
put them on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I have no like I've never reached out about anything like that, but like I guess that would be like an advertiser,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, this is the
And that
podcast hustle.
there's a lot of people who use Amazon for that because then you don't even have to talk to the company because if those glasses are sold through Amazon, you can do an Amazon affiliate link where Amazon is giving you the kickback and like
So okay,
they're the middleman.
that's another option then. So for Amazon affiliate links, is there a way that we could be like, hey, we like this product, we want an affiliate link, and they'll give it to us?
Yeah,
How does that
yeah.
work?
You have to get approved for it for the affiliate program, but like not most, a lot of YouTubers, if you go on their website, like they'll have the Amazon affiliate links that the stuff that they like. So if you want the tools or the equipment that this YouTuber is using and you go on their site, you can support them by ordering it through their affiliate link through Amazon,
You're
and it's
blowing
just an
my
approval
mind.
process.
But so
And
you mean those that all of those people don't actually have direct contact with the companies that they
no,
have affiliate links for?
no, no.
They're just like, I like this camera, and they've been approved on Amazon.
Yep,
Okay,
that's it.
100% we need to try to do that.
Hmm.
Because that actually changes it. Because there's a lot of products that I actually really, really like that I feel like would create value. That'd be great.
Yeah, or WD-40. You know what I mean?
WD
Like
40, good
anything.
for everything.
Well, it gives you a vector for like if someone wants to support the podcast, if they're going to buy something anyway,
Anyway,
if they were to buy it through your affiliate link, then it would help us. And so it's like,
oh, dude, I love
you know
that.
what I
That's
mean?
actually that right there feels like not okay. Sponsorship is important to me on a community level, right? Like I want someone else to be invested.
Mhm.
That feels like the most viable, other than our own direct merchandise, of a way to monetize that's
Mhm.
like not putting your hand out and you're like, here's something cool. And if they go buy it, it's like two birds, one stone kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
All right. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit
Could
of
look into that. I don't know what the
um,
approval process looks like, but
Ben Peterson,
yeah,
help us.
help, please.
Where's the Ben sign?
Yeah. He knows a lot about
It's
Amazon,
just
so
wild hair. We
yeah,
shine
right.
it into the clouds.
He got a haircut.
Tell us about the Amazons. I know.
Yeah,
I
I
hate
know. But his profile picture on Instagram still has it, so you can still
it.
daydream about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Getting lost in the locks.
Right.
Dude, I
Right.
love it. Okay, here's a curveball. Where's my collab?
Where's your collab? Uh, that's a great question.
Dude, it's
That's
a
a great
real one.
question. So here's where I'm at. I've got the employee now,
Yep.
working the getting the gears turning on moving all these projects along that have been kind of stalled. Um, I feel good about getting your knife in pretty dang soon.
Mm,
Now that I've got Dalton in here, um, got to start moving on it. Like
we got some work
this
to do.
now that he's here, I think it's probably a 2 week chunk of time that I'm kind of deciding is a non-functional time for me to be productive. It's like I just want to think about
Your
what he's
support for
doing and
him.
help him and just be a direct like his shadow and
Yeah.
not like annoyingly so, but just try to make sure that like any question he has is answered. Anything that could possibly come up, I'm there.
Yep.
And so I'm kind of like more focused on him than anything else in the business. After that, things open way up, and that's where I'm now free to do this kind of thing, because like this project that we've been working on, that's one of the reasons why I hired him, is because I need to do some more legwork on this.
Yeah.
um so yeah, I
It
basically
all
haven't
takes
done too
time.
much on it yet, so it's time for me to
All
pick
right.
up and run.
And we're at the 2-year timelines.
I
This is
know.
it's the it's the,
I know.
the reality of production.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love it.
once I can pivot to it, um my production from like having the design complete to having a finished knife isn't that long.
It's wild.
I can crank through it pretty fast, but it's just I just have to focus on that. You know what I mean? I need more
Yep.
time to design and build fixtures. That's what's been missing in my whole business model.
Yeah.
Um, so now it's time to have that happen. So
Here's one for you. So I'm still like I'm forcing myself to use Fusion 360. I just did a project yesterday. Like I finally modeled like an actual knife in Fusion 360, right?
mhm,
Looks like a knife, prints like a knife, like, and it's blowing my mind. I love it.
mhm,
Uh, in my the way that I was looking at it, it was like I have to learn the modeling, the cam, and then figure out how to make this stuff. And recently, I was thinking that maybe that's actually the wrong way to look at it, which is right now, if I just focus on the modeling, the CAD and modeling side, and really try to learn that, as opposed to kind of trying to learn all three.
mhm, mhm.
Because it's like, okay, I'm going to switch to a Pearson. Okay, now I got to figure out, like, I designed this knife. Now I got to like instantly make it. What's your gut on it? Like,
Um, it's a balance, because there's so much about designing the fixtures and doing the cam that actually informs you on how to do the CAD. But it's
right.
not that loop. Like, you want to have a good foundation in CAD before you begin that loop. Um, so I would dig hard into CAD for a while.
That's my thought. Like,
That's probably what I would
just
say.
just really get the muscle. And I'm not talking like forever. Well,
Hmm.
I mean, you know how that goes. But like if I do, because the reason is that I can do CAD from anywhere,
Hmm.
right? So like we got summer coming up, we got family vacation. I can take a laptop. Um, if I if I get to if I get to where I can hit CAD flow state, where I know enough of the process to be able to complete the work, I think I'll actually do it.
Yeah.
And I think that by trying to go cam and prototyping, I think I'm actually going to overload myself and like
Yeah.
slow it down.
And at least in my experience, cam is easier than CAD.
Yeah, totally.
It's just way less going
Yeah.
on in the
And I
cam
have a
environment.
basis in it, right?
Yeah.
Like
You've machined.
learning
Yeah.
Fusion is different for me because all of a sudden I'm solid modeling and
Yeah.
learning new software. Cam, I can relate to, and I've actually done some cam in Fusion.
Yeah. And
Um,
you know what you want the tools to do. So it's
yeah,
just clicking on the right thing.
yeah. And the
And
bigger issue is actually because I want to take the knives further in machining, it's like switching the way that I'm doing my machine, and all of that together is like a full ADHD overload. Like
mm,
I see it kind of blowing a fuse for me.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's a big pill to swallow if you're doing it all at
yeah.
once, for sure.
And that's the thing. I don't need to right now. Like the goal is, I don't necessarily need to bring a product to market off of the CNC right now. not nearly as bad as I need to be able to fully model any project I do going forward. So
Yeah.
that I think that's
It's
where like it's like the priority
the CAD side is the most universal part of
is the
that.
universal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, when I was learning CAM, because I only learned CAM 2 years ago when I got my
Yeah.
machine, I hadn't even touched it before that.
Yeah.
And the hard part for me was like knowing how to make the machine cut the way I want it. It wasn't
Yeah.
even the programming. It was just
Yeah.
like, how deep do I plunge the end mill? 3 flute, 2 flute,
Right.
5 flute? What kind of coding? Like actually being a
Yeah.
machinist was the massive learning curve for me.
Yeah.
And the CAM, like, it just wasn't that
Yeah.
complicated. Like,
The
it's pretty
nice thing
simple.
too is like what we're running for the most part is like you kind of plug and play it.
Yeah.
Like we're
Yeah.
running steel, I'm running titanium, we're
Mhm.
running composites. You might be running brass or like so you kind of get to a point where your like feeds and speeds are pretty
Yeah.
consistent. The
Yeah.
side like the envelope, the part envelope is pretty consistent.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just noticed it yesterday. I think like the idea of having one area of frustration is okay at the point where like if I start moving into actually machining parts, I'm going to still be struggling with setting up and doing the drawings in Fusion.
Mhm.
So it's like you're stacking the potential areas of like frustration. That just doesn't seem like effective. So if I get to a point where I'm like, cool, I can model a knife.
Mhm.
I will have a bunch of knives modeled. At that point, it's like, okay, now I need to figure out how to machine it.
Mhm.
At that point, doing CAM and designing fixtures seems like a natural tie-in.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Can I put something on you? A burden?
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you do the slot machining. You have to do water jet and fixture it.
I know.
It hurts me to think
I
about
know.
that.
Dude, it's such a throwback to like I think making things by hand. I'm like, look at this magic machine that it's just like cuts out all my parts.
Yeah. And it makes sense. Like depending on the volume, it
It's
does make
prototyping.
sense. It's
Prototyping, it makes sense.
Prototyping.
Yeah.
But if it's a fixed blade,
Yeah.
by the time you're cutting steel, it should be prototyped. You know what I mean? Because it's like you have a 3D printer.
Right. Now, but okay, but this is the thing. Now that's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Here's the other question in this. Okay, so if we put that, like if I do a run of fixed blades, no slotting and tabs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can agree to that. How do I differentiate between projects that I want to make completely by hand and projects that go to water jet and go on CNC?
On the marketing side?
Just on the time allotment side.
Oh.
Like what I've been struggling with this, and I think I've kind of come to an answer, which is it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I want to make it by hand, I probably just should.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't want to default to it.
Right. Right.
And I feel, especially with fixed blades, it's so easy for me to grab like a concept, go downstairs, make a pattern, cut 5 or 6 knives out on the bandsaw, and just like I'm just making knives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Muscle
And
memory.
that is, I think, really satisfying for the ADHD. It's like
Mhm.
movement, and it is like zone of expertise. Like it's right, but it's also a waste of time in a certain way if I know I can do it on the CNC.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of where I've ended up is like anything that falls under the category or like leans towards art, I can do by hand. If I'm making a product, and this is still being refined, if I'm making a product, essentially it's going to be on the CNC. But
now you understand my dilemma of what do I call the knives that I'm making?
Totally.
Like what is this thing?
I will still hold that your knives are custom knives. I know.
At one point I did say like firmly I'm production, but then I have waffled a couple times because what I found is if I'm trying to explain to someone what it is, if I say production, then I'm like, well, but that doesn't quite explain it because I'm making it to order.
Yeah.
So they're not sitting on a shelf. So
no, and like I think that just calling it production does like take
it's custom production.
Yeah. Okay. Like I really like the term micro production,
Yeah.
right? Because you can have production processes in a custom environment.
Yeah.
The fact that it's really nebulous,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I look at like, okay, if I start forging more, well, I have to be okay with making a knife by hand
Hmm.
inside of the business. I have to be
Yeah.
okay with it.
And I think what made me not want to call it custom is like there's a lot of people that would hear that and be like, that's not custom.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
understand. I actually get what they're saying. And
Totally.
so it's like I don't want to like step on toes there. But then calling it production doesn't do it enough justice either.
Right.
So sure, I don't know.
I know.
Can't make everybody happy. I don't know.
Dude, I think the only point to the descriptors is ultimately like a filing system. It's almost for yourself. Like I look at it and like why we moved away from the term mid-tech fully.
Hmm.
Because I realized brand was big enough to say production. And I just was comfortable with when I do a product that I consider production, calling it production.
Yeah.
The other option is that you can have knives in your line that you consider production, and you could have knives that you consider custom.
Yeah. Hmm.
That might actually be the distinction for you.
Hmm.
The crazy thing is that the process to make them could be the same, probably.
Yeah. With more exquisite materials, maybe some different finishing
Yeah.
and whatnot.
So
Yeah.
what makes, and that's like for me, it's like, okay, the realization of the right tool for the job, I think, or like the right skill for the application. So here, like the example would be I made some wraiths a while back, like you've seen that model.
Hmm.
It looks like a knife that is like produced,
Hmm.
but I'm using all of my hand skills to get to
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
But I could fully use the CNC and end up at that point
At the
and
same thing.
at the
Yeah.
same point. And so for
Yeah.
me, that knife in my head, even when I hand make them, I'm like, it's already leaning towards like a production model.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I think that being able to connect with the creativity of like fully manual process is what I'm after. But it's almost, I want it in like a more exploratory
Yeah.
way. So one handmade prototype
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then
Yeah.
go to CAD if I want to make
Yeah.
more of them.
Hmm. No, that'd be cool. I've been thinking like a more custom line where they're
Yeah.
not made to order,
Yeah.
where it's not something anyone could request, but I would do like a hand rub satin with wood scales.
Yeah.
And that's something I would not put on my configurator because
Right.
that doing hand rub satin and wood scales would be not a
Yeah.
scalable thing in the way that I'm doing it.
Right.
And so that could be something that now I've mentioned to Dalton that like with him helping me with the production side, I maybe have a little more free time to get more creative with that side of
Yep.
it. And that's where I could call that custom.
Yeah.
Like a
I agree.
signature series is kind of how I was thinking of like phrasing it.
Yeah. Signature series, custom
Yeah.
shop,
Yeah.
like limited editions. I mean, all of
Yeah.
these things play like, knife industry is still like so many people have so many opinions about how things are done
Hmm.
because it's not the way that their granddad did it, or it's not the way that their favorite knife maker
Hmm.
does it, or that someone said on YouTube. And what you realize is a lot of that comes from either the hobbyist maker, because once you get to the point where you're making your primary income from knives, I think you, generally speaking, have enough knowledge to kind of like understand how hard any of it is.
Hmm.
And so you
Yeah.
stop being like, I do it this way and it's
Yeah.
better than what you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just like, dude, you do it too? You're crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I like the way you do it. Or
I
like,
know.
you know?
Knives are hard to make. I've said that before, and like I've always tried to check myself. I'm like, am I just so vain that I think what I'm doing is hard? But I've been around enough other manufacturing, not to say that any other thing is easier per
Right.
se, but like knives are hard. Like I have found that the things I've been around, like knives have these nuances that a lot of things don't have. It just is the way it is.
As a product,
Yeah.
as a product, it is a complicated and price inefficient. Like there's so, even in a fixed blade,
Yeah.
there's
And
so many
it's
things that have to
competitive.
work, and it's competitive,
Yeah.
right? And it's a limited market.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right, time to start making stuff for pets and babies.
Dude, and I just dream of the day where I could run a machine shop that only touches aluminum, because I
Oh
know of a
yeah,
machine shop that's pretty large in
yeah,
Nampa that I know the owner pretty well. He's got a whole suite of machines. He's got everything you could think of.
yeah,
All everything. Big machines, small machines, fast machines, lathes, and he pretty much is an I only touch aluminum guy.
yeah,
And so he does large billet aluminum parts, large shop, does a lot of work. And I'm like, gosh, and I'm sure he has his own struggles of things that they make, I'm sure. But like, be nice to go to aluminum.
yeah. Well, I mean, even in the knife industry, like there's some brands that crush
Yeah, the autos.
with the autos,
Yeah,
man, with aluminum, and
yeah,
so that's a great like exploratory one for you. At a
yeah,
point, you're like, cool, I'm gonna do a button lock auto or whatever it is. I'm gonna
yeah,
hit aluminum,
yep,
like, and you can switch a little of the business to something that is maybe like easier in
yeah.
some capacity.
Hmm.
That's pretty fun.
So many opportunities, man.
I know. I know. What do you do?
Got to build the Nova one first.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
All right. So that's it. Yeah, like CAD. I just got to keep digging into CAD. I'm finally getting to a point where I'm starting to enjoy it. This is silly.
Good.
I'm gonna hold this up for I've been messing with this since they can't see it.
Oh, nice.
Um
Do you want me to
it
describe it or no?
no.
No.
But it is a small 3D model of a fidget toy. And I didn't even have to call TJ when I did it. And I 3D printed it. And I think it's awesome. It's
It
like
is
so
awesome.
it's stupid
It is.
simple, but the ability to just like go in, model it up, 3D print it,
Yeah. It's a
game
cool
changing.
workflow. It's a cool workflow.
Cool. So it's starting to take. Like
Hmm.
it's not pure frustration.
Hmm.
I've
Well, good.
found I'm developing I'm developing like this process to engage the hyper focus, right?
Hmm.
Research. So if I start with research, it almost automatically engages the drive to like push forward.
Mm.
So if I know that I want to do CAD, I will go on YouTube and
Start
start
watching videos.
watching like, like
Yeah.
the videos from like Lars Christensen.
Yeah.
And it kicks like just a little bit of incentive in, and it makes it easier for me to go to work.
Oh, that's smart. Just start getting that information just flowing.
Just
Yeah.
get it flowing. Yeah. It's like priming the pump a little
Because
bit.
I found that once you have questions, then you
Yeah.
need answers.
Yep.
But to get questions, you need to like see or hear something to get
Yeah.
that going. Yeah.
Dude, but it's dangerous. On the flip side of that, like hyper focus, I've been looking at trucks and I accidentally went into a dealership today and almost like very, very, very closely left without buying a F-250. It's like
Dude, they're good at what they do, man.
they're good. They're very good at what they
Yeah.
do.
Especially when you're already a truck or car guy,
Dude,
and they see it coming from a mile away.
I think you know what? I don't know if you have this too. I think I'm a bit of a people pleaser, and so like I always feel guilty.
Yeah.
Like I'm like
Like I
I
test drove
feel
it,
like
so I have
I
to buy it.
test drove it, so I have to buy it, and like I
Yeah.
feel awkward
Yeah. Do you think
around
that's the
that.
business owner in you, in part?
No, the business owner in me doesn't say I'll be back when I'm at a flea market. That's
Yeah.
business owner. That's like telling someone that you'll come back to buy something is like so like I don't know, like
It's dishonest.
yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
just I don't think people do it to be dishonest. I think they are just not aware of the fact that when you say that, like it's weird.
Yeah. Some people might internalize that and then
Yeah.
actually be thinking about you 6 hours later that you never came back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like, don't tell me you're gonna come back. So it's like I
Yeah.
walked on this. They actually made me like a pretty good offer. I've been like doing the research. This is the problem. I do the research on the truck. I kind of know like where I want to be. But the as soon as I step foot across the line of like the process, like once I'm engaged in a negotiation with stakes, I have a really hard time like disengaging. So I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, I'm gonna like see this through.
And they know that. I'm telling
And
you,
they
the
know that. So
dealerships know
like,
that.
yeah, it's funny. So
Yeah.
like they were like, what can we do to put it in today? I'm like, there is
Yeah.
absolutely
Always be closing.
nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
always be closing.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is nothing that you can do to put me in a truck today.
Yeah.
Like,
I've tried to, when I go into dealerships, because I've shopped cars a few times, and I try to really, really like. I go in like I'm not buying anything today.
Yeah.
Like and then start leaning towards it as you like see good pieces of information. But try to go in thinking you're going to be disappointed. You're going to hate it.
Yeah.
It's not the right truck, and then let the truck and the person convince you it is,
Yeah.
rather than like you're already leaning towards it, and as soon as you walk in the door, it's like
foregone conclusion.
you're flushed. Yeah.
Well, this was actually kind of fun. I want to dig into this. Like, is this sales, or is this just like, it's both probably.
Yeah.
So I go in, they've got like a 2019 F-250 that I see. So that's what I pull in to look at. Mileage kind of high. I test drive it. It's pretty rad. Go inside just to like see what else is on the lot. Puts me towards a Ram 2500. I'm pretty unfamiliar, but like I've been looking at specs, so like looks rad. I want to check it out, get inside, check it out. As I'm leaving, he's like, "Hey, can I introduce you to my manager? Just so you can like say I did a good job and like tried to sell you a truck." I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." Introduced to the manager. Manager's like, "Oh, you're looking for F-250?" He's like, "Roger, did you show him that one that we just got in?" And he's like, "We just got one in?" He's like, "Yeah, it's out back." He's like, "It's not cleaned or anything." He's like, "But it's what you're looking for." And it's out back and it's dirty and they just took it in. It's the price point that I want.
Oh, geez.
And it's the configuration that I want. And I'm like, what are the odds? Like, because the sales guy never brought the truck up.
Yeah.
Did not bring, I don't think he knew. He's an older salesman. I don't think he knew it was there.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You said, what are the odds? I'm saying, what are the odds that I get a picture of that truck tomorrow in your driveway? Seems like your this gravitational pull's got you moving.
No, you know what the thing is, both of the trucks. So the 2019 had 80,000 miles on it and it was a gas engine. If I'm going to get out of my Tacoma, which is like hard emotionally, I want a pretty low mileage truck. I want it.
Yeah.
The other one, so the one they had out back was a 2017 Lariat, 89,000 miles, but it's diesel. It's pretty low mileage diesel.
Yeah.
But here's where it is. I don't know that I need a Lariat. I'm going to probably put seat covers on it. This is going to be a truck that I'm building into an overland rig, like a big overland rig. And I looked and I was like, man, I found a 2019 for same money, 45,000 miles on it. And so it's like, for me, if I know they're out there, I probably won't pull the trigger on it.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm still getting a feel. Pricing's hard. So the one I found is in Washington. I found a nice cheap one in Washington. I called. They won't let me buy the truck. They won't sell. He's like, we're not doing any out of state sales.
That's
Figure
crazy.
that one out. Service. I bet it's service.
They want to make their money on the back end.
They want to make their money on the back end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you're in Washington, you want to buy me a truck and drive it down, I'll pay for it.
You're right.
Dude. So yeah, but
yeah,
I'm ready.
My Jeep that I have right now, I shopped them for years, like this exact model, and I had it down to a science of exactly what I wanted. And when this one popped up, I kid you not, I saw it on like the website the morning of, and I was looking almost every day, and so I saw it the morning of. I walked into the dealership and I like found a salesman. I'm like, you're just gonna sell me this Jeep? Like, you don't have to say a word. Like, I'm buying this Jeep because I just waited that long before going into the dealership, and then I saw it pop up, and I knew it was what I wanted. It was like, boom.
Does it work? Like, if you walk in and there's 3 salesmen, and you're like, "Look, here's the deal. I am buying this Jeep. Just the question is, which one of you I buy it from?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any incentive?"
I think what happened was I went straight to the Jeep in the lot, and then just. They do the little Rochambeau where they have like take turns, and whichever guy came out, I was like, well, it's your lucky day.
It's your lucky day. Dude, it's so fun. I'm sure there's like some strategies there. I would like to go in and start looking at like a Kia and then let it work up to an F-250.
Yeah. No kidding.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, okay.
It's a fun tangent. I like trucks and cars.
Dude, I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear about this journey.
All right. You want to wrap it?
Let's wrap it.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Guys. See you around.
Peace.